Trying to figure out when is the best time for me to release this. Reed, do you have any suggestions?
Sunday at 7 on the dot, no matter what.
It's not a bad idea. Hey guys, what's going on? It's Daniel Strunk from QuickTime Reactions, and yeah, just like the Reeds do every Sunday at 7 on the dot, no matter what, for the next couple of weeks, we're going to be looking at some Fantastic Four stuff. Welcome to my new review slash kind of watch along series where I'm going to be reviewing all sorts of Fantastic Four media and what I class as Fantastic Four adjacent media as we head towards this new Fantastic Four taking their first steps into the MCU. And I think we can all agree that First Steps will be forever classic, and that is what I am calling this series, is forever classic. And you will see in the thumbnail, or you will have seen in the thumbnail, that I have cleverly picked out how to spell forever. So what are we kicking off this new series with? We're kicking it off with an episode from a kids show that was on 20 years ago, and maybe some people forgot this episode. Maybe, people like me, they just love this show and they remember this episode very fondly. I don't know, but this is my channel and I make the decisions on it. So, welcome for the ride. We are, of course, talking about Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius. More specifically, Season 3, Episode 2, which is The N-Men. So, story of this episode is Jimmy and the gang are coming back from, if I remember correctly, I think they went mini golfing on Mars. And they're making their way home, and they pass through a radiation belt. And this radiation belt gives them all sorts of superpowers. But when a big hulking thing comes rampaging through the streets of Retroville, it is time for the N-Men to lace up the boots and to try and stop this thing from destroying the town and, more importantly, themselves. So, a bit of background on me. As a kid, if you were to ask me as a kid what my favorite TV show was, and if you were to ask me this question now as an almost 25-year-old, I would probably still say to this day that my favorite TV show of all time was Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius. I loved the show, I loved the movie, and it was such an integral part of, me growing up as a kid, that when it stopped airing, kid me felt like, he had lost a part of himself. But that's when I also went over and watched a little bit more of the Disney Channel, and then you had shows like Wizards of Waverly Place, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, Phineas and Ferb, and a whole bunch of other ones, as well as the DCOM movies that would air during the weekdays and the weekends. That became the next integral part of my childhood. But this was like the foundation of it. And I don't care what anybody says, I still love this show, even to this day. So, let's get into more in depth details, shall we? So, as they're passing through this radiation belt, the activities in which, our gang is doing correlates to their power. So, Cindy was beating Jimmy in an arm wrestling match. So naturally, she gets the powers of Superman, where she's like really strong. She can fly around. She also has like really good supervision, all that stuff. Carl was burping, so that correlates to him having really powerful burps. And even now, I'm like, that power's cool. Sheen was sitting in like a massage chair. It was a vibrating chair, so he was vibrating around, which, correlates to him having super speed. Libby was applying some vanishing cream, so naturally she can turn invisible. And Jimmy, who was losing in the arm wrestling match, he is very angry. And so he naturally becomes me whenever I forget to wear sunscreen when I go out and mow. Becomes very tan. Just becomes very tan with like, touches of green in his hair, which also includes like his eyebrows. So our gang now has their powers, and they're trying to, help her out around the city. Like, Cindy tries to rescue a cat from like a power line, and she just flings that cat into the sky. Sheen tries to pick up all the litter that's on the street, but he causes a tornado to happen. Libby tries to stop a person who's walking across the crosswalk walk when it clearly says don't walk. She is about to get hit by a truck, but Carl saves the day with his super burps, but causes a massive pileup in the street. So, sure enough, the good old government is coming to detain Carl, Sheen, Libby, and Cindy. But not Jimmy, because, he's not done anything except being tan. And so the rest of the gang, except for Jimmy, is taken to a government base where they're basically being held so they don't destroy any more public property. Meanwhile, Jimmy is trying to look for a cure for their problems, but he is very much struggling, and also notes that there is a fatal gene that is going to kill them in 6 hours because, they've been using their powers. So it'll weaken them, essentially. And this gets Jimmy really, really, really mad. And so he turns into a combination of, like, the Hulk and the Thing, where he still has like the green hair and the green eyebrows, but he also is very much textured like the Thing. Like, he's basically made out of rocks. And so he goes into the town, pulverizes, not pulverizes, but like, chucks stuff around. There is a brief moment where Jimmy's parents try to connect with him, and it does work temporarily before the rest of the townspeople, of course, like idiots, throw fruit and vegetables at the big hulking monster. Really smart decision. Cindy sees everything that's going on in town thanks to her supervision, and they want to go help. But, of course, the government is not letting them go help because, well, they can handle it. They do not handle it. in my research in doing this, I remembered one specific moment where hulked out Jimmy is fighting the tanks, and he swings the tank around and lets it go into the sky, and I'm like, that feels like it was ripped straight out of Ang Lee's Hulk film, and I checked, and it was. He doesn't. The Ang Lee Hulk version doesn't like take the top off of the tank and use it as like a bat or anything like that, but he does grab a tank by the barrel and just fling it into the air. And also, Ang Lee's Hulk also fights in the desert as well. But of course, the N-Men do break out of their holding cell and they do join the fight, and they're able to hold their own against Hulk Jimmy. But Carl cannot deal the final crushing burp, so Sheen has to literally run back into town and get some of Sam's. Sam is the person who runs the candy shack. Get some of his seltzer to get Carl a burp. And Carl's like, Sam seltzer, no, they're like, this is too dangerous. I can't do this. And of course, well, he does do it, and it is very much in the case of like a nuclear bomb going off, which I find absolutely hysterical. Jimmy is out for the count, but of course our gang, that fatal gene, is slowly creeping in, so their powers are like weakening, they're fainting and stuff like that. But of course Jimmy, who's not used his powers that much, he's still big and strong. He's still strong, and he's gonna crush him with the boulder. But Cindy appeals to the goodness that's in him, and says that she cares about him, and she drifts away. And this is something that I also wanted to talk about as well. It's like towards the tail end of season 2, and most definitely in season 3, like with this episode, and they have a time travel episode where Jimmy, Sheen, and Carl go into a dystopian future to for actions that they caused because they left a wrong present at Libby's party, which changed the future. And so in that alternate future, Jimmy and Cindy are married, which Jimmy hates. But in the episode in which Jimmy and Cindy are stranded on an island, they do have legitimate feelings for each other. And like I said, that went all the way towards the tail end of season 2. Like Jimmy Timmy Power Hour 2, which I think may have been in season 3, but like that definitely Jimmy Timmy Power Hour 2 was like showing the first like inklings like of like Jimmy caring about Cindy, and like stranded, like definitely that, or I don't even know if the episode was titled Stranded, but like the episode in which Jimmy and Cindy are on that island, they definitely have feelings for each other. And once they leave, it's like, aw, and then they get into another argument, and then they realize, oh, maybe this is a chance for us to get stranded again. And it's like, well, the only way to find out is to go. So it's like definitely like hardening that, that feeling of like they do like each other. And this was kind of, I think, more building blocks towards that. But Jimmy is, fixated on that. Like, what does she mean by that? Like, love, like, why? And that is able to calm him down. He turns back to normal and realizes seltzer was the key. And so he's able to derive a cure. And he said, like, well, I'll be back to normal in, like, a week or so. But, of course, the episode ends on Carl, once again, one more burp for the road, and Miss Val ends up, like, flying off her feet. Not like a far distance, but, like, off her feet. So, you may be asking yourself, why cover this as like the first thing in something that is Fantastic Four related? Well, a couple reasons. One, them traveling through a radiation belt, and then that's how they're getting their powers. That sounds like Fantastic Four to me. Libby's powers. She can vanish, and she can also create portals around people. Kind of sounds like, Sue Storm's powers with the Invisible Woman. Number 3, Jimmy's look. Like I said, he's very much textured like he's made out of rocks. Like the Thing. And they're a group of people that know each other really well, much like how, Reed, Johnny, and Sue Storm, and Reed's best friend, Ben Grimm. Very much similar to the Fantastic Force dynamic. I'm just pointing, out the similarities that I see. Not only to Fantastic Four, but also, like I said, many inspirations from like the superhero films at the time, because this was made probably in 03, shown in 04. Of course, 03, Ang Lee's Hulk, like I mentioned in the review, but also N-Men, and the way that the logo appears on the like the transitions from the scenes, very much similar to the X-Men, which, the first 3 X-Men films, first one in 2000, second one in 2002, and then that third one in 06, like building blocks for, the X-Men franchise that would become, as the years and years would continue. But yes, just some similarities that I thought I'd like to point out. Just saying. So yeah, that is my review / kind of like, breakdown synopses of the N-Men episode of Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius. I gotta tell you, watching this show again just brought back all sorts of feels. And the feels are definitely going to be felt, because they're going to be running the gamut from nostalgia like this, and with the Fantastic Four films that came out when I was a kid, to maybe hysterical lows with like 2015 Fantastic Four film. And yes, I'm going to review this, the Roger Corman Fantastic Four film. And we're going to cap things off with a nice little bow with what I think is the best Fantastic Four film that has ever been made. Actually, 2 of them that have been made, which are The Incredibles. So, that is what we are looking at schedule-wise. But, until next time, guys, be safe out there. And remember, if you travel through a radiation belt in space, I'd check myself into a hospital, because you're not guaranteed superpowers. That's all I'm saying. I will see you guys next time.